Hi everyone. Before today's video, I wanted to make a quick announcement about the new VIP Masterclass series that I just started. It features tailor-made videos customized to members' video requests, whether it be on the repertoire piece that they're working on or about a piano technique question in general. If you want to check it out, click on the link below. Now, on to today's video. Hi everyone, this is Josh with Josh Wright Piano TV. Today's episode is entitled "To Master Sight Reading, Do This," okay? I promise this works. I don't know if you'll be completely satisfied with your sight reading and say, oh, I'm a master sight reader right away, but I promise this works. This was all spurred after seeing this amazing blind pianist that won the Van Cliburn. And he played all the Chopin etudes for his first round. And I mean, they had to basically like help him to the piano, and when he sat down, he kind of felt around for the keys. And then, you know, just like stunning playing. And I remember, I think he played Waldstein. I mean, huge gaps. And so it got me thinking, because I was looking at so many of my young students, and they were always going up, down, up, down, up, down. Now, I've told you in other sight reading videos, you know, try to only look at the music. I'm going to tell you now, never look at your hands. You have to develop a spatial recognition of the keyboard in order to master sight reading or to get confident at it. And I don't consider myself a master sight reader by any means. There's people that can completely deduce an orchestral score on the spot. That takes a lot of practice to be able to do that. Other people can sight read extremely difficult repertoire on the spot in tempo. I don't really consider myself a master of that at all. I do consider myself a quick learner though. If you give me an hour with a piece, I can get it pretty good, but depending on the intensity of the piece, obviously. But the first time I was always pretty weak at, until I started using this method, and it really helped. And I think I got fairly good at this when I was doing a lot of accompanying, because you can't be looking down at your hands and then look back up, because it disorients you. You're like, oh crap, where was I in the music? It takes you a second to find it. So what I've been having my students do is only look at their music by developing this spatial recognition based on three notes of the three black keys and the two black keys. So if you walked me into this room, so you know, you shut the piano, I scoot around on the bench so you know I'm not marking my spot, and then you say find a middle C. Okay, well, here's two black keys, here's two black keys. This feels like probably about the middle of the piano right here. Okay, there's middle C. I did that with my eyes closed, okay? You say find a high G. Okay, I go up, I find my three black keys. Okay, I've got three black keys here. Now I go to the one right above the first black key, because I know it's F, G, A, B. Find me a low E. Okay, so here we go. We find two black keys, and you go to the one above it, because I know C, D, and E. You never have to find it looking at it again. The only exception that I'll allow my students to look down when they're sight reading is if there's a humongous jump, like, you know, like an octave, like over an octave, and they're not advanced pianists. I'll let them do that. But I'm not even going to do that for you today. This is the Rachmaninoff Prelude in B-flat major, one of the more difficult Rachmaninoff preludes in my opinion. And we are going to just dive in, and I'm going to show you exactly what I do. If I look down at my hands, I will start at the beginning of the piece again. And I make my students do that too. I had this, the first student I ever did this with, her name's Edna, just this very sweet lady that I teach, came to piano later in life, and she blossomed when she started doing this. She said, she admitted, she's like, I am not a good sight reader, that's my weak spot. And now it's one of her strengths, I feel like. So it's amazing how this works, okay? Here we go. So I'm going to find my lowest B flats on the piano, okay? So here's my three black keys. So it's a top B flat. Okay, there we go. Whoops. Already start to kind of shape it as well. Let's purposely mess up here. Let's go. Say, oh shoot, I missed that B flat. Rather than looking down and seeing where I'm at, I'm going to reset. I'm going to say, okay, where's my three black keys? Here they are. I feel them with my thumb. Here's the third flat, and I know what an octave feels like. Okay, I'm back on those keys, and let's see. The B flat comes in between an E and an F. Say I got disoriented with this hand, I'm going to find an E and an F. Here's my two black keys. Here is my E and my F. Okay, I'm good to go. I never had to look down at my hands to do that. Dispel a few myths for each of you, because I've taught, and I'm still a young guy, so I'm not saying I'm a master teacher at all, but I have spent a great majority of my life teaching piano since I was 16, and also a great majority of my life practicing the piano. So basically my life has been piano for the last, well, 24 years. I'm 29 now. I started when I was 5, and heavily when I started teaching at age 16. I've never seen this argument work in favor of the student. I don't want to memorize it right now because then I'm going to stop reading my music. That's the dumbest argument. I understand why teachers say it's dumb, because their students go home and they say, okay, I've got B flats. Okay, I never have to look at that B flat again. Okay, now I've got an F. Okay, I never have to look at that. I've memorized. To memorize as you go doesn't mean that you are not going to look at your music. After I memorize, I'm still spending about 80% of the time with my music open. I'm not doing it just for my mind, because there's things that I'll miss in the score and there's new discoveries to be made all the time. But don't make that mistake of telling your students, never memorize this, because then you'll become bad at reading. Assign them 5 to 10 minutes of sight reading every day to warm up, to get the creative juices flowing, to keep their minds sharp. I noticed that sight reading is a perishable skill. If you're always working at it, it gets really strong. It's like working out. If you're always working that muscle with little rests in between, you don't have to do it every single day for long periods of time. 10 minutes a day or every other day for 20 or 30 minutes, it will stay strong. If you stop sight reading, I even noticed with myself, even after all these years of teaching and accompanying and performing, if I don't sight read on a consistent basis, my sight reading becomes weak. So that's something that I would recommend. Have sight reading, if you're a teacher, have sight reading be a separate activity from their pieces. Their repertoire pieces they can memorize as quick as they want, as long as they're continuing to look at their music. I don't care if they have it locked away up here. Basically what you're telling your students is to be brain dead. If you're saying, don't memorize this piece, after they've played it for 2 months, they'd have to be an idiot to not have it memorized if it's a simple little piece. You're telling them to shut off their brain and not memorize it. Of course, if you read a speech, for 2 months straight, every single day, for 30 minutes a day, you're going to have that speech memorized or close to it by the end of those 2 months. So allow your students to memorize. If you are a student, allow yourself to memorize, but continue using the music. And to be a better sight reader, use it as a separate activity each day. Never look at your hands. Develop that spatial recognition, so that if somebody said, sight read this, and I wanted to look down at those B flats, it's okay, because I've been training to not look at those B flats. So if under pressure you have to glance down at your hands real quick for a big jump, who cares? Because you've been training without looking, so it'll be that much easier. I hope this has been helpful. I know I get fairly passionate about this subject. It's because I see a lot of poor teaching from students that come to me from other teachers, and they have all these misconceptions of errors in efficiency. It's not that these methods are going to make you a horrible pianist, but like constantly looking up and down at your hands and then at your music and back and forth, or being brain dead and never memorizing your piece, that's going to slow down your progress. I want these videos, I make these videos for free for each of you to try to help you become as good as possible, because I feel like I want to share this because I've been lucky enough to study with some of the best teachers in the world. I want to share that. So please feel free to email me with any questions. I do want to take a moment and thank each of you who have donated either to our Christmas album or to this project. We truly do appreciate that. That helps us so much in our careers. So I'll link those down below if you feel like you would like to donate as well. We are so grateful for that. We just had our little baby girl Lola, Lindsay and I, and we couldn't be happier. So your support means each of you who have donated either to our Christmas album or to this project. We truly do appreciate that. That helps us so much in our careers. So I'll link those down below if you feel like you would like to donate as well. We are so grateful for that. We just had our little baby girl Lola, Lindsay and I, and we couldn't be happier. So your support means a great deal to us. Have a wonderful week. Good luck in your studies, and thank you for your support. I was going to say good luck with sight reading. See you later.
Hello and welcome to this piano pandemic activities video, and today we're going to explore the prelude in B minor, opus 32 number 10 of Sergei Rachmaninoff. There's a lot to say about this prelude, so perhaps we'll divide this video into a few segments. First we'll discuss some of the backstory that goes with this, because there's actually a lot of extra musical things that one should know when playing this piece. First of all, it is said to be inspired by a painting of Böcklin called Heimkehr, Die Heimkehr, which means the return. And there it is, the painting you can look at. And the idea is this guy is a soldier, apparently, from the sword, who has been off maybe a long time. And he's returning probably to the little place with the lighted window. But he's not entirely sure what awaits him. He's been gone long enough, maybe life has moved on without him. So the idea from this painting is that, Rachmaninoff was very aware of this sense of lostness and exile, even though he was not in exile when he wrote this piece. It was as though he had a sense that this was his destiny. So people say. Anyway, many people comment on the connection between this painting and the piece, although I'm not really sure if there's primary evidence where Rachmaninoff said this. There are other paintings, particularly Isle of the Dead by Böcklin, which he definitely was working on and inspired by when he wrote that tone poem. So anyway, that is the supposed origin of the piece, this painting. Secondly, the sound of the piece, the overall sound. I had played this a number of times when I was younger and studied it before I realized this piece has no 5/1 cadences. Never ever does it go in B minor in any form. It just simply doesn't use the 5/1 relationship, and that led me to start seeing just how unusual and odd the harmony is. This is a very modal sound, and it is closely related to the sound he used for his choral music. If you really want to hear the sound of that, listen to the all-night vigil, also known as Vespers, unaccompanied choral music, and you will definitely hear this sound of using the diatonic scale, a little bit of chromaticism, not much. It can go on white notes for 10 or 15 minutes at a time. but also avoiding any kind of standard functional harmony. There aren't any 2-5-1s. There's no shave and haircut 2 bits. It's just a very amorphous, non-committal kind of modal sound. And what it does, it creates a sense that things are just going and going and going, and there's no resolution. It's like on a different time scale. And the choral music definitely feels like that. It feels like it is just suspended from a normal business day. It doesn't work on the same time scale. So it's really quite interesting to look at. And by the way, one of the things he uses very frequently is parallel fifths, and you can even see them right here. These very clear exposed fifths that move in parallel motion. He absolutely used those. That's part of his modal language. It's not because he flunked theory, it's because this is the sound he was after. Another characteristic we see is the dotted rhythm here that appears throughout the first section, and then when we get back to the end, it comes back. This is not an obsession, I wouldn't say. It's not everywhere in his music, but there are enough examples of it that it might be considered a characteristic rhythm. So the prelude in B flat minor from Opus 32 shows it, as does the prelude in D flat. We also see it in the second sonata, the B flat minor sonata. So it's one of his little characteristic gestures. Of course, of great importance is the idea of the bells. Now, bells are central in the Russian Orthodox, not just in the church, but in the organization of life. The bells are always ringing to mark different things, just the passing of the hours, of course, and church services and festivals and deaths and alarm and everything. Bells are the sound that mark the important things in life. And Rachmaninoff had this sound all the time. Not just these single ringing, like this. That's a bell, okay? And then here's another one. But later, these tremendous bass chords. Those are the ringing of the largest bell in the collection of the church, which is known as the Blagovest. Then you also, after that, even in this section, these rapid da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, that actually resembles the sound of Orthodox bells. If you've ever actually heard them in person, there are different patterns that cycle through. And this very much sounds like that, those kinds of patterns. And of course with the large bells punctuating everything. And then with this cadenza, if you really let it ring here, you get the piano to ring like the overtones of a lot of bells. So more on that as we get to those sections. But the presence of bells, the sound of bells, and their overtones in forming the harmony is very important in this music. Okay, next we have this weird little chromatic motion right here. And that appears again here, there, very prominently at the end of the piece, here, there, and then the very end. The B major to B minor, which I always thought was exceedingly strange when I was young. This is a quote from the opera Sadko by Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov. The particular number in question is the Song of the Indian Guest, and it's this guy who's traveled far from home, and he's singing about homesickness. So this falling chromatic thing, and there's the example of Sadko. This falling chromatic idea and shifting between major and minor is symbolic of homesickness. All which, again, supports this idea of the painting in the first place. Next, another important feature that we'll see a lot is the idea of the ninth, okay? The dissonant ninth above the bass. So many, many examples, but here, for example, there's the F sharp. We have 6th and 11th as well, but the 9th, and here it is there as well. But most importantly, we have the idea of when the big moment starts, we have B to C sharp. Okay. There's C sharp over B, and then as we move along, it keeps repeating that, and then it goes to E over D. It does that for several measures, and then F sharp over E, and then A over G. Okay, so this appears over and over and over, and in other places in the piece as well. So the dissonant interval of a 9th. Next, Rachmaninoff was rather polyphonic in his writing and thought in terms of layers, and he had a little notational system by which he indicated the differentiation of the layers. So he used 3 symbols, or we could even say 4 symbols, and from most emphatic to least emphatic, they are the accent mark, that is the little reverse hairpin that we see here. That's the most important thing. And if you see that over a note in Rachmaninoff's scores, that is to receive the highest level of emphasis. Next is the tenuto marking, just a straight line as such. There we see it. There we see it. Okay. And that's the middle marking. It's emphasized, but maybe the overall dynamic level is not as high. Then we have the dot here, here, here. And that's the 3rd level, which is of less noticeability, less volume, but still somehow significant. And then you have nothing, which is the lowest level, the 4th level. And these markings are really very helpful when you look closely at his scores to determine what you're going to bring out, how you're going to orchestrate it, so to speak, or how you're going to voice it, as we would say in the piano world. So those are the 4 levels of his little plan. Next, we always have to keep in mind one of his characteristics is long, long melodies. And very often the melody involves playing a note and then going off and dealing with some figuration, and coming back and playing another note and going off. And in so doing, younger musicians, less experienced musicians, often don't hear the continuity of that line. Just because I went off and played something else doesn't mean that line stopped. And so, for example, a good example is here, where we have this melody. See, there's the tenuto marking, A. How long does that A last? That A goes 2 beats. So we're in 4/4. That's 1, 2, 3, and it goes to there. And notice that the slur is like strong, weak. Okay? And then that one ties over. And then we get there, strong, and that one goes to there, weak, and that one ties over. Here's the next one. There, 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 there. Where does it end? It's still going there, there, there. Dum, da, dum, dum. And all the way it even connects to this next thing. So this entire section is one melody. One melody. But the fact that you have to go all over the place and play these dotted rhythms will definitely distract you from making that line into something very, very clear. So one must read very closely in this music in order to really understand what's going on. So that's a very, very quick introduction to this piece. In the next part, we will start going through measure by measure and working on it. See you next time. Ciao.
Pour les designers, pourrait être utilisé comme matière première pour d'autres produits.
Il est clair que la récupération et la réutilisation des éléments de construction est tendance en ce moment. On constate du côté des grandes entreprises qu'il y a des gens qui n'auraient jamais pensé à la récupération de matériaux, qui s'y intéressent aujourd'hui et qui sont ouverts à cette idée.
Je crois qu'à l'avenir, il ne faudra plus considérer la production de déchets comme acquise. Peut-être qu'on ne pourra plus en générer autant à cause de contraintes au niveau géopolitique, au niveau des ressources et au niveau politique. Donc, Rotor Deconstruction est une entreprise dont la vision va au-delà de la situation actuelle où ces initiatives de revalorisation restent très marginales. Ce sont des activités de niche. Mais je pense qu'à l'avenir, elles représenteront un nouveau modèle dans lequel on ne prendra plus pour acquis que l'on peut faire ce que l'on veut avec l'environnement.
Le modèle qui repose sur la surconsommation de matières premières et sur de faibles coûts pourrait ainsi évoluer vers la valorisation du travail qualifié et la recherche d'alternatives à l'exploitation des ressources naturelles.
Un événement organisé récemment à Dubaï a fait prendre de la hauteur aux présentations commerciales. Les entrepreneurs avaient 1 minute pour faire l'argumentaire de leur start-up devant des investisseurs réputés. Ils ont dû le faire à bord d'un avion avant de sauter en parachute au-dessus de la ville.
De jeunes entrepreneurs qui présentent leurs arguments à des investisseurs réputés via le réseau social TikTok à bord d'un avion. Dubaï a accueilli il y a quelques semaines un concours inédit.
Nos 3 candidats vont faire leur présentation à bord d'un avion. L'un d'entre eux sera désigné comme gagnant, puis on va sauter en parachute.
On est la première génération touchée par le changement climatique et la dernière capable de faire quelque chose.
Le gagnant, le créateur de Humor, un tracker de bien-être psychologique utilisant l'intelligence artificielle.
Avec Humor, on va apprendre du passé et construire un avenir dans lequel on démocratise la gestion du stress et du bien-être. Cet événement est en rapport avec le fait de surmonter sa peur. Il incite à aller au-delà de sa peur. C'est le sens profond de ce concours. Nos créateurs d'entreprises finalistes viennent de tout le Moyen-Orient et de toute l'Afrique. Donc c'était la région sur laquelle on voulait se concentrer en termes d'investissement et le choix de Dubaï s'est imposé car ici, on veut repousser les limites.
Parmi le jury d'investisseurs, l'inventeur de Google Maps, Lars Rasmussen, le cofondateur de Netflix, Mitch Lowe, et la première personne à avoir investi dans Zoom, Bill Tai. Que recherche-t-il dans une jeune start-up ?
C'est un marché très vaste qui est en plein bouleversement et qui doit correspondre à l'ère du temps. Deuxièmement, il faut voir si l'entrepreneur a une bonne intégrité et s'il est capable d'exploiter chaque opportunité. Et troisièmement, il faut regarder si la capitalisation est adéquate, si le business model ne nécessite pas un énorme capital de départ. Car pour les capitaux risqueurs, les meilleures entreprises de technologie sont celles qui ont des marges élevées parce qu'elles proposent des produits très utiles. Ce qu'il y a de très intéressant aux Émirats arabes unis et à Dubaï, c'est le cadre réglementaire. C'est beaucoup plus simple de faire des affaires dans cet environnement.
C'est le moment de créer son entreprise parce que d'un côté, il y en a beaucoup qui mettent la clé sous la porte et de l'autre, il faut en construire de nouvelles.
Autant d'opportunités pour les populations du Moyen-Orient et d'Afrique du Nord dont l'âge moyen est inférieur à 30 ans et dont la main-d'œuvre est de plus en plus qualifiée.
Вето наложили, вето. Я просто хотел посмотреть, что там. Двойной, говорит, исчезнет. Думаешь? Ну, нет, скоро закончится. Ну, короче, да. Не знаю. Он про себя так говорит. Качество это низкое. Нет, чеки забрать. Чек. Нет, вырезал. Я заложил. Посмотреть надо. Наоборот, хотя я говорил, что про других нет, наоборот, я себе так думал. Это же вырезано у нас. Лица книгу. Вон ваши книги самое. Это тоже, смотрите, ну, пару минут. купил, не знаю, что смотришь меня. Делаешь зря все это так, потом. Что ничего не делаешь, ты хоть присяга делаешь.
Les professionnels du jouet espèrent un Noël généreux malgré la pandémie de coronavirus. C'est aussi le cas du magasin Hamleys à Londres, fondé il y a 260 ans. Malgré des ventes en baisse cette année, l'engouement pour les achats en ligne et l'essor des boutiques éphémères semble avoir permis de traverser la crise.
Pour les nombreuses entreprises qui ont ressenti les effets de la pandémie, Noël représente une lueur d'espoir. Dans le secteur du jouet, certains estiment que les mesures de confinement peuvent inciter les consommateurs à se tourner vers les jeux intergénérationnels.
On met l'accent cette année sur ce type de produit. Ce sont des classiques qui permettent de réunir toute la famille. Et je crois que tout le monde passe beaucoup de temps à la maison et on veut tous être dans une ambiance cosy, familiale. De manière générale, les ventes ont chuté dans nos magasins. Donc je crois qu'il serait naïf de penser qu'on aura un Noël similaire à l'an dernier. Mais on enregistre un succès phénoménal en ligne et on multiplie les ouvertures de boutiques éphémères. Donc je pense que l'année sera très bonne malgré ce contexte différent.
Ces dernières années, les jouets dérivés de films représentaient une manne importante à Noël. Mais il semble que pour ces fêtes, les jeux vidéo seront les produits stars. Reste que les jeux classiques assurent toujours une bonne partie des ventes, même s'ils ne comportent pas de technologie.
On a eu un succès phénoménal avec les Lego, un immense succès avec les Barbie et puis les jeux de société continuent de marcher fort. Ils sont présents depuis des années et ils seront toujours de grands classiques. Chaque année, il y en aura une nouvelle version. Je crois qu'encore plus cette année, on sera tous encouragés à nous réunir autour d'une table et à jouer ensemble.
Dans les rues commerçantes de Londres, la crainte d'un confinement pour les fêtes est bien présente. Certains sont déjà prêts à s'adapter.
On partage le même appartement et on a décidé de ne pas faire de cadeaux de Noël cette année. Moi, je vais les limiter à mes parents.
Шутишь, что ли? Кривомордый. Какой-то? Все серьезно какой-то? рады, то есть себе подумаешь. Нет,
Grab president has exposed a lot of weaknesses in our government, but it just needs to hold together for one last. And they better lawyer up because my attorney is.
Bro, after I'm with my wife, room because if President Trump and your senators had been focused on COVID from the beginning instead of their portfolios or their
почему три? Понял, я тебя понял. Сейчас меня будут увидеть. Хотел посмотреть.
Scrolling. Tomorrow night, we will be live on Showtime at 11 p.m. for our election night special. If you don't have Showtime, just sign up for the free trial. It's free. And who doesn't love a trial? I'd like to throw a free one for Trump next year at The Hague. Sir, just think of the ratings. A lot of Americans are nervous right now, and I get that. This is the most high-stakes election of my lifetime, and I include when Ruben Studdard beat Clay Aiken. There were riots. Stores had to be boarded up with, wood over their windows.
Сейчас то же самое произойдет. Сейчас и это тоже вырежу. Я понял, прикольно. А почему три-то? Почему три? Ну, я понял, ладно, я понял. Я критик